Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a few easy, quick sewing DIYs. For these DIYs, you can use scraps, you can use new fabric, whatever you want, but they're quick and easy and they should take you about 5 minutes or so. For me, the first one should only take a couple of minutes, but it took longer because my dog, she did not like the camera that I was trying out to use, which I also had problems with too because it came out a little bit blurry, but I figured it out, not for this video, but for the next one. All right, so I tried to bribe her. It didn't work, but what you would need to do is measure your dog's neck. If you can't measure the dog's neck and you want to give it as a gift or something like that, I did find a few charts online and I will put those measurements down below, and that way you can do it for different size dogs. For her, I ended up cutting her a square of 14 by 14. It was a little bit big for her, but like I said, I was trying to figure it out. So you just cut like a perfect square. If you don't have enough fabric and you are using scraps, you can just cut 2 triangle pieces. When you fold over the piece to make the triangle, the top line is going to be longer. So for hers, it was about 20 inches. And then down 14 and 14, I believe it was. So you would just cut a triangle based on whatever size you picked from the chart. All right, so once you cut it, then you would sew along the sides with it right face to right face, leaving an opening to turn the right way out once you were done. You don't have to sew this top if you're doing a square because it'll already be closed off. So you just turn it out, push out the corners to make sure they're nice and sharp, and that's basically gonna be it for that. For her, I decided to add a little detail on it, but I did that later and I did it off camera because I did it with the Cricut, and not everybody has a Cricut, but you can do it with the Cricut, with the embroidery machine. If you pick a little more vibrant fabric, you can do it with that. But if you don't, you just leave it plain and you'll tuck in the piece that you left open and top stitch over that. You can top stitch down the whole row to make it look consistent if you want. And then that would be it for your cute little gift. And that's a great little sewing project to do. Even if you're just practicing as a beginner and you want something to do with your scraps and you have a pet, or like I said, you know someone a pet and you want to give away some great gifts. All right, now let's get started with our next project. For our next project, it's another quick and simple one. For this one, I got the pieces from the Dollar Tree. So you can use scraps or you can use things that you get from the Dollar Tree, just little remnants, different things. I got these because they had like a little shimmer to it and it gave me a holiday feel. So the Dollar Tree is great to make like little pillow coverings and different things. What you would normally do is face them right face to right face, sew them around, leave an opening, turn it the right way out. You can put a zipper on it, what have you and stuff. But for this one, I wanted it to be as big as possible. So I'm just going to top stitch over them. So I'm going to face them wrong face to wrong face. I wanted to add a little detail to it. So I have these leather, like faux leather sheets. And then I'm just going to make a little decoration with them. The red and black would be cute, but then I thought about it. It really doesn't have a place in my house, and I'm not, giving it away. So I'm just going to go with the black. So that way, if I wanted to, I could use it year round. For the leather pieces, all I did was just cut strips. You want to make sure you try to cut them as straight as possible. And I wanted them to overlap a little bit. So I'm just going to use that piece of the fabric. And then I use the other one later on. But I just tried to cut them as straight as possible. You could turn it over on her back and draw the lines, but you see, I wanted to just overlap a little bit, so I want to make sure that it doesn't look crazy. You can see once you cut the strips from the triangle, you can't layer them from each one you cut on top because they're made to go together, so you have to kind of skip them. But once you've decided where you want to place them, and you make sure that they're not in the wrong place so that they touch the edges at least, if they don't overlap, then you would just go ahead and top stitch them. For the other side, I decided to do like kind of a weaving pattern. So I just put one under, one over, one under, one over, and then you'll see I just top stitch them as close to the edge as possible with a straight stitch And that's it to tack them down. You want to go as close to the edge, because even though it's a faux leather and it probably won't fray, you want to make sure it looks neat and doesn't lift up. And because you're not like putting them in a seam and cutting the pieces all up and so forth and stuff, you want to make sure it looks as neat as possible. And then when you get to the other side where the weaving was, if you decide to do the weaving, you can just see that when I get over there, I just do one straight stitch across all of the pieces, as opposed to sewing down each piece individually. So I'll just go over both of the pieces at the same time, and then that's it for that. So like I said, you want to make sure you get every edge, the inside edge, the outside edge, so that it doesn't lift up over time. And you want to make sure you go as close to the edge as possible without going over. All right, after I was done stitching down, I realized it was bubbling a lot, and I realized that was because of the lining. So I cut away the lining. You can see here where it's still a little tight there. I didn't want to cut it all off because of fraying of this fabric, so I just cut as close as possible so that when I was done sewing it up, those pieces would stay inside and I wouldn't have to worry about it unraveling. When you're sewing the pieces together, if you're using the contrast color like I did, you're gonna have to sew it in parts. So again, you're gonna sew as close to the edge, but you want to remember you're gonna be putting stuff in there, so you don't want it to bust open. So you got to make sure you secure the stitches. But because it's two different colors, I had to change the thread for the black part. You don't have to change it as you're going along to the pieces. So what you'll just do is sew all of the white parts. You get your back tack, you open it up, you go to the next section of the white, you know, and you just keep going down like that until you're done. And then you go over it the same way with the black. Again, making sure you're leaving one side open to be able to insert the pillow insert or the stuffing, whichever you want to do. I was thinking about adding something here with the Cricut too, like a ho ho ho, Mary Mary Mary, but I didn't because I want to use it all year round. And a tip, make sure you change the bobbin. So when I was using the black thread to sew the top, I should have left the bobbin white so that the back will look neat and clean, but I just won't turn the pillow ever. All right, on to the next project. This one, like I said, is another quick, simple sewing project that you can do in about 5 minutes. It's napkins. And if you know somebody that loves to set their table and different things like that, napkins are great. So there's going to be the napkin and it's going to be the napkin ring that you can make. I'm using the scraps from the faux leather and then some of the fabric from the bandana that I made. All right, so it's going to be quick and easy. For the leather scrap, I measured about 7 inches by 2 inches. You can make it a little thicker if you want, but it's good at about that size. So you're just going to cut those pieces for however many leather napkin rings you want. Mine didn't quite go 2 inches, but because I was using scraps, I worked with what I had. And then for my napkin, I cut my napkin about 18 inches by 18 inches, like a square. You can make it a little bit bigger. I wouldn't go too big, and I wouldn't go much smaller than the one that I did. And then if you have like a kind of plainish fabric like the one I have, you can make a decorative stitch on it. You don't have to have a fancy machine to do a decorative stitch. The stitch that I used, I believe it's for a stretch. So you don't have to have like a machine with like 30 million stitches. So you could put your decorative stitch on before you start or after you finishing up the hems or the edges, whatever. So you're just going to fold it over twice so that it looks nice and neat. You could fold it over and press it down and then just go over it one time. For me, I was too lazy to take out the iron, so I stitched it down and then folded it over and stitched it down again. If you're going to put the decorative edge on before you do the edges, make sure to account for the fact that you're going to fold in for the edges. So once you're ready, and if you pressed it down, didn't press it down, what have you, if you're not going to press it down, try to use pins. I don't use pins. You should use pins. Mark where you want to put your stuff. I was using the fold lines because the fabric had been folded and there was like little creases in it and stuff. So I was just using those as my marker for where I wanted the stuff to go. But like I said, for the decorative stitch, I use the straight stitch. And you can see here, I don't have like 100 million stitches. I use what is supposed to be to sew stretch fabric, and I just sewed that on top because I thought that was the cutest little stitch that I had. You can overlap some zigzags and make up your own design if you want. And you can see here when it's done, and then you're just gonna pull. I pulled the thread through and then tied it off in the back, because with the stitch I saw that when I back tack, it made it look a little bit sloppy. So I just pulled it through and just tied it off a couple times in the back and cut that excess fabric. And then I was done with that part for the napkin. And then you'll go on to sewing down all of your edges, and you're going to do all the way around the same way, folding it into the back side and then top stitching over it, making sure everything is secure. And that's it. So a napkin is quick, it's easy, it's simple. Once you're done with all that, then you'll have your napkin, and you can go on to your napkin ring holder. All right, so what I did was just fold over the piece. So the piece is like 7 inches, so that's like 3.5 inch mark or so. But like I said, I didn't measure it. I just took it and folded it over, and then you're gonna cut out like the, I don't want to call it a triangle, but it's like a triangle, but it's like the longest peaked triangle, what have you, and stuff. And you want to try to make sure you don't cut it more than half the length of the ring holder. So I just cut a little peak, and you want to make sure your little ends aren't too skinny because you want them to hold in place when you pull them through these slots. So when you're done, you should have cut out the little piece there, and then it should look like this, like the weirdest pair of pants you've ever seen. And then you're going to take and fold that again, not too close to the edge. You're going to want to cut, but you're going to want to come down a little bit, and you want to cut. Do not cut the whole thing off. Do not do that. Just put the scissors down at the base, not all the way, so that you have that little slit and not too close to the ends, because you don't want it to open up over time. And then you should be able to fit your pieces in. You overlap them. You don't want a piece that's big enough to fit both the pieces in side by side. You want them to overlap so that it stays nice and secure and snug. And then this is how it should look, and it's cute and it's simple and it's easy. And you don't have to use faux leather for this. You can use another type of thick, sturdy fabric. If you're going to use a woven fabric, make sure that you put something to stop the fraying of it. But like a nice thick vinyl, or that would help it from fraying. And then you'll fold your napkin up so that they can see how to do it. Not that they won't know, but if you're giving it as a gift, just send it to them cute and fold it like that. Stack them all together, a bunch of tissue paper, and it makes a cute little gift to give. So now that those are done, you have all of your cute little gifts and DIYs that you can give away or keep for yourself. If you want, keep on watching for more great sewing projects and different things. Don't forget to subscribe so you can follow along with all the sewing journeys and things like that. And if you know another crafter who might love something like this, don't forget to share. All right, I'll see you in the next one.